Pomaže Bog, braći i sestre u Hristu, ja sam Bojan, and today we'll be talking about the final boss of your total immersion into Orthodoxy. That pesky ethnic parish that you have to attend. There was no church anywhere, but you managed to deal with that. There was a church, but it was far away. However, you dealt with that too. But now there's this church close by, but it's an ethnic parish. And they use their native language or some sort of long-dead liturgical language that's sort of similar to their native language. The point is, you understand neither of them. Chapter 1. The background. So where do these woes of yours begin? Well, let us start off with some history. By the way, this will be extremely sketchy because this isn't the focus of this video. In short, jurisdictions of bishops shouldn't overlap, and in the old world they generally don't. When they do, schisms ensue. However, in the new world, things are much more muddled. The ecumenical patriarchate thinks that it has the jurisdiction over the entire new world. Yes, this does include the Disney world. However, the other patriarchates beg to differ, so they all send their merry bishops to the Americas and Australias and New Zealands. They create their different parishes. So it is possible that in the same city you have a Serbian church, a Bulgarian church, a Greek church, and a Russian church. Such a state of affairs is very regular in the New World. Chapter 2. What is an ethnic parish? To put it short, an ethnic parish is an Orthodox church that primarily ministers to a specific ethnic group. As said before, they may be Serbs, Greeks, Russians, Jews, Georgians, whatever. People there can be more or less welcoming of strangers, and the language in their services can be anything, from the mix and match of English and the ye olde tongue, or it could just be in the ye olde tongue, which just so happens to be the language that you do not understand. And that is why you clicked on this video. Well, that, or you're one of those Bible Illustrated completionist subscribers who simply watches everything I post. You even watched the Bible Illustrated lo-fi music video until the very end. Chapter 3. The workings of an ethnic parish. Okay, how does an ethnic parish work? It's quite simple, really. A priest erects a church that will minister to, say, Romanians. The church essentially becomes a hub for future Romanian immigrants, and very often, completely irrespective of their devotion. In Romania, a Romanian would probably go to church on Christmas and Pascha, but here, he tends to be regular during Sunday liturgies. Now, this may or may not have to do with Christ, but it definitely has to do with having a sort of a culture club for like-minded individuals who speak the same language and for whom the church is a sort of a portal to and an embassy of their old country. Here, everything reminds them of their homeland. Chapter 4. The issue of ethnic kids. In an ethnic parish, the biggest issue is the kids. Let us be honest. No one will keep their ethnic affiliation for very long. In 3 generations, these are no longer Serbs or North Macedonians, they're Americans. Their ethnic origin will be a quirky subject that will be brought up once per person they meet, if at all. They no longer understand what's being said in their church, and, sadly, they will probably start attending some Protestant church that actually caters to their needs of understanding the service, as opposed to hearing this arcane language from a country they feel no particular attachment to. Why am I saying this? It is simple. Ethnic parishes generally do not replenish themselves on their own, which leads me to Chapter 5. The future of an ethnic parish. When an ethnic parish is formed, it can only feasibly go in 3 directions. 1. Either the parish is constantly fed new parishioners from ye olde country. 2. The clergy incrementally introduces English to the services to attract more and more new converts. Or 3. The parish falls apart because there is no new blood from the old country and the clergy do not adopt English in order to minister to the new blood from the outside of their increasingly aging parish. I'm clearly aiming at the clergy of ethnic parishes with this. The split second the young blood stop coming from Barovia or Metroidvania, it is a very serious sign that English needs to be introduced slowly, however painfully, into the parish. Of course, I'm saying English because this video is in English. I mean any predominant language of the country you're in. Chapter 6. Feeling as an outsider. Now I will start talking about the language in a second, but one of the reasons converts tend to dislike ethnic parishes is that they feel like an outsider. In a way, they are outsiders. Your ethnicity does not match the one of the parish. However, and this is the experience of most converts, even ethnic cradles are welcoming enough. Sure, there may be a clash here or there where a convert is tad too zealous, where a cradle is tad too lax, but hey, this tends to be a given. I just want to give you a brief example from my own life. I am the sole religious person in my family. Most of you know me as the Bible Illustrated guy. Well, this Bible Illustrated guy you know and mostly love attended his parish for 8 whole years without getting to know a single soul. I mean, sure, I understood the services some 30% of the time, like most Serbs, but I had no friends there. There was one priest who was sort of aware of my existence, but not my name. So, just persevere. You are there for Christ, not ethnic feelings. Chapter 7. The American Jurisdiction. Now, you probably have a solution to this, and this is a singular American jurisdiction. Well, that would be very, very nice, but it falls on a couple of fronts. First, American Orthodox of any ethnicity are still a tiny minority in the United States. 2. Old World churches generally see their American counterparts as a cash cow that supports them. Third, it is generally very difficult for bishops to relinquish power. And fourth, bishops have a hard time agreeing to anything. Chapter 8. The needs of the cradles. Now, your other solution would be to simply impose English in all American churches with your English wand. Well, see, that's also an issue. While the missionary zeal of a lot of ethnic parishes may be lacking, you have to bear in mind that these people need Christ as well. Furthermore, precisely thanks to these people there is Orthodox in the United States in the first place, and these ethnic parishes are important hubs to many converts. Introducing a new language into a church services is a very serious balancing act and shouldn't be taken lightly. Well, that was a mouthful. Now we'll move on to the most important segment, but since you're here, take a moment to appreciate our lovely donors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to make these videos. Please consider pledging to our project, it helps us greatly, or at least subscribe if you haven't until now. The links to different pledging platforms as well as to our merch site are in the description and the pinned comment. Speaking of the merch site, make sure to check it out as well. I've posted some of these lovely original watercolors from my iconography professor Višnja Devrnja. Chapter 9. Opinions on foreign language. Now we come to the crux of the issue. While you may feel left out, all this pales in comparison to not being able to understand services. Remember that understanding is not immersion. You can train yourself, as it were, to immerse yourself into a foreign language service. Likewise, a person who understands all might completely miss the mark. Ultimately, the Lord wants our heart. Yes, a brain is nice to give to the Lord too, but when it comes down to it, all that is important is the heart. And let us be realistic here. If you're at a service where you don't understand anything, you're in a far better position than someone who can't attend church. And for those of you that can't, do not worry, the Lord has you covered. He has that factored in. Chapter 10. The Liturgical Languages. We come to the topic of liturgical languages. I'm using the term liturgical language out of pure charity because it is a sort of an undead language. It isn't that it is not used, it is used in services after all, but it is used to address the being that literally understands all languages, making their continued use completely redundant. You can tell that my personal opinion of these languages is poor. So poor, in fact, that I think that priests should know them and not use them in anything other than some sort of a reconstructive liturgy used in seminaries. Ultimately, the church is not a museum, and there isn't a consistent argument to be made for liturgical languages. Liturgical languages are retained out of difficulty to moving to something better. Translating to a modern language is easy enough, but making it sound good while chanting is a whole can of worms, so the majority of the church hierarchy simply decides not to do anything about it. And let us be honest, a lot of us love that mystique that goes with the dead languages. It makes things sound old, and all things are automatically better. As the gospel says, the old is good. You might encounter people who will essentially guilt-trip you into learning a dead liturgical language. Bear in mind that people who are like this tend to be language buffs. They may present silly arguments as in, some concepts are difficult or impossible to translate, which is a given whenever you compare any two languages, or if it was good enough for Saint X, then it is good enough for me, which is silly because it wasn't that liturgical language that made X a saint. They may say that it is tradition or any other accusation levied against Saint Cyril and Methodius when they dared, I say, to translate the services into Slavic. How dare they? Amen. Chapter 11. What should you learn? So, what should you do when it comes to learning a language? If you want to learn the liturgical language or the foreign vernacular language that's used in services, more power to you. What I said in the previous section applies to guilt-tripping and poor arguments. But if you're the type of person who likes learning languages, go for it. However, if you're not all that into diving deep into languages, you can learn the following prayers so you would at least know a good portion of Orthodox services. The basic prayers, the Heavenly King, Trisagion, Our Father, Truly It Is Met, the litanies, standard parts of the liturgy, the Creed, Troparion, Kontakia, the Thrice Holy, and so on, Psalm 50, standard hymns used in other services, O Gladsome Light, Blessed Are You, O Lord, the Great Doxology, etc., and learning which psalms are used in different services is always a good idea. Chapter 12. Tips on Survival. Now, of course, even if you know these sections, there simply will be parts that are lost on you. This is a stumbling block even for people who do understand the language. Sometimes you stand too far, the priest and chanters sing too quietly, the reverb of the room can make everything incomprehensible, to say nothing of your attention wandering around. What to do in cases such as these? Prayer ropes are your friend, and I don't mean this series. I mean the series as well, but it helped far less people than this simple device of tied knots. Simply take out your prayer rope and start praying the Jesus prayer. Remember what I said recently. Understanding is not immersion. Do the Jesus prayer and you'll be fine. Of course, you can always substitute it for something more in line with the service. For example, if it is a service dedicated to the Most Holy Theotokos, you can substitute the Jesus prayer with Most Holy Theotokos save us or Saint X pray for us if it is a service dedicated to some other saint. Finally, you can simply stand in awe before God, but always have the prayer rope ready, lest that standing in awe before God turns into your mind wandering around everywhere but finding rest in God. Chapter 13. Positive sides of an ethnic parish. Let us be common for a second. Odds are that here you will try out food that you'd never taste otherwise. You'd learn about a culture that probably didn't pique your interest until now, and hear, and possibly learn, a language that you have, at the very best, heard in a movie once or twice. You will get to know saints whose lives possibly aren't even translated into English, at least in their fullness, and you'll see them venerated with much love and devotion. These strange foreign saints that just might pick you to be their protege when the time of your baptism or chrismation comes. And finally, what I said before, ethnic parishes are hubs from people from the old country. To Google Translate that for you, it means that they generally have a very robust community and an excellent coffee hour, things that are generally lacking in good old Slovenia. So yes, ethnic parishes do have their issues, but also hidden blessings if you know where to look. Is Lyudmila over there looking in your direction? Go ask her out, you green card person you! Thank you for watching this video. If you want to know more about yourself, watch the Convertitis video. If you want to learn more about the people who attend ethnic parishes, watch the Cradle Orthodox video. Bye! Amen.